Hello children, now we move on to the second module of the lesson, quality. In the first module, we saw how the author talks about a shoemaker named Mr. Jessler. He was a very dedicated shoemaker. He made boots of very good quality. He had a typical way of talking. He talked English with German accent. He lived with his elder brother in his shop, which was located in a small by street in a very fashionable part of London. His shop was quite different from the other shops. Whenever somebody entered his shop, they felt as if they are entering a church. It was so calm and quiet there. There was only one single wooden chair, and the author sat there waiting for Mr. Jessler to come down. Mr. Jessler always showed good quality of leather, and he was a very simple man. He did not talk much. He did not give much importance to his dressing, but he was very, very dedicated towards his work. His boots were also of very good quality. They lasted for a long time, and the author knew this man, Mr. Jessler, since his young days, because Mr. Jessler made the shoes for his father. Now we move on to the next module. We'll start from page number 74. I cannot forget that day on which I had occasion to say to him, Mr. Jessler, that last pair of boots creaked, you know. He looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, then said, it shouldn't have creaked. It did, I am afraid. You got them wet before they found themselves. I don't think so. So now the author is talking about an incident which happened, and that incident really hurt this Mr. Jessler. The word creaked means to make a harsh sound, especially by things which are generally getting old, children, worn out things. A creaking sound, a harsh sound made by worn out things. The word qualify means to modify. The sentence, it shouldn't have creaked, is his typical way of talking. I told you, he talked English with German accent. The sentence actually means, it shouldn't have creaked. And the next sentence, you got them wet before they found themselves. The sentence means, you got them wet before they found themselves. Now once, the author told Mr. Jessler that the last pair of shoes which he had brought creaked. That means it made a typical sound. Now Mr. Jessler was a perfect shoemaker, children. He could never accept any mistake because his shoes were so perfect, so beautifully made. There was no flaw in that. And when Mr. Jessler heard that the author told him that his last pair of shoes or the boots were creaking, he just couldn't accept it. He looked at the author for some time as if expecting the author to change the sentence or to modify the statement. And then he said that those shoes shouldn't have creaked because he was so sure about his work. But the author argued. He said that the shoes creaked. I'm afraid the shoes did creak. Then he said that maybe the shoes were wet before you put them on. Sometimes when the shoes get wet, children, they do get spoiled, isn't it? But the author said that, no, I don't think so, that my shoes were wet. Then let's see what he says. At that he lowers his eyes as if hunting for memory of those boots, and I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. Send them back, he said. I will look at them. Some boots, he continued slowly, are bad from birth. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. The words send them back means send them back. The sentence I will look at them means I will look at them. And the sentence some boots are bad from birth. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. This sentence means some boots are bad from birth. If I can do nothing with them, I will take them off your bill. So this is actually the way he taught children. And the author has written exactly his pronunciation here. The word grave means something serious. So when he mentioned that the shoes were creaking or the boots were creaking, Mr. Jessler was hurt. He just tried to lower his eyes and he tried to recollect those shoes. He just couldn't get the memory of those boots. And the narrator or the author felt very sad. He felt he shouldn't have hurt this man. He was a very hard-working man, isn't it? So now the author was feeling guilty. Then slowly, Mr. Jessler said that, you bring those boots back. I will check and then I will let you know what to do. Then he continued saying that he will try to check the fault in that boots. And some boots are bad from the time they are manufactured. Many things have manufacturing defects, isn't it, children? So some boots are like that. They have some flaws or some mistakes from the time they are made. Such mistakes cannot be corrected also. And if Mr. Jessler cannot correct those mistakes or cannot correct or repair the shoe, he will take it off his bill, which means he will refund the money or he will not charge for those boots. Now, the next paragraph. Once, only once, I went absent-mindedly into his shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firm. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating the inferior covering of my foot. At last he said, those are not my boots, which means those are not my boots. Now once the narrator or the author went to his shop in a hurry. He forgot to change his boots or shoes, and he went there wearing a pair of boots which he had bought from a big shop in an emergency. At times it happens to children. The author always tried to wear this Mr. Jessler's boots only. But maybe once in an emergency he had to buy a pair of shoes and he brought it from a large firm. But Mr. Jessler had sharp eyes, children. The moment he saw his boots, Mr. Jessler understood that he did not make those boots. He showed his displeasure by taking the order without showing any leather to this author. And he kept staring at those shoes. Obviously, the author felt as if his eyes or his looks were getting inside those low-quality shoes which he was covering. The low-quality shoes which he was wearing. And then Mr. Jessler said that he did not make those boots. The author might have felt so ashamed, isn't it, children? Let's see what happens in the next paragraph. The tone was not one of anger, nor of sorrow, not even of contempt. But there was in it something quiet that froze the blood. He put his hands down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot was not quite comfortable. So now when Mr. Jessler saw this low quality boots which the narrator or the author was wearing, he said that he did not make those shoes. The word contempt means disrespect or disregard. The words froze the blood means something which was scary or something which was terrorizing. So the author tells that when he went to his shop, Mr. Jessler did not look very happy seeing the author in some other pair of shoes which he had bought from a big firm. The way he said that he did not make those boots really was something very different. Mr. Jessler never talked like that. The tone was not of anger or of sorrow. It was not of disrespect also, children. But the way he talked was quite terrorizing. Then Mr. Jessler, he just put his hand down and pressed a finger on the place where the left boot was not looking very comfortable. And then he said that this was not actually a good quality shoes, children. The boots were of very inferior quality. The author also knew that, and he was not very comfortable with those boots. That's why Mr. Jessler just touched a finger. And let's see what he says. "It hurts you there?" he said. "Does big worms have no self-respect?" And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and bitterly. It was the only time I ever heard him discuss the conditions and hardships of his trade. It hurts you there, which means it hurts you there. Those big worms have no self-respect, which means those big firms have no self-respect. Just talking about those big shoemaking companies or big firms which manufacture shoes. So now Mr. Jessler asks him, "Is it hurting in this place where he was touching?" A typical way of talking, children. He always talked English with German accent, isn't it? Then for the first time, he said that those big firms, they have no self-respect. They don't think of the quality. They give big advertisements, isn't it, children? But the quality is very low. And then for the first time, he started talking in a very sad and bitter manner about the troubles of his trade. Hardships means the difficulties which he has to face in his trade. Every job has its own problems, children. The job of a shoemaker was also not easy. Mr. Jessler made very beautiful shoes of very superior quality, but he never had any advertising policy. He could never advertise. He only thought about the shoes and its quality. But the other big firms had a lot of money. They made things of very low quality, but the way they advertised, people go and buy. As they have money and power, they could earn more. This man did not have money. He had no means of advertising. But everybody in that area almost knew that this was a very good man. He was a very good shoemaker. And for the first time, he complained that the big firms had no self-respect. He talked something personal about his trade, the difficulties which he was facing. Till then, he never discussed any such thing with this author. Now we move on to the next paragraph. "They get it all," he said. "They get it by advertisement, not by work. They take it away from us who love our boots. It comes to this. Presently, I have no work. Every year it gets less. You will see." So this full words, all these sentences are spoken in English with German accent, which means They get it all. They get it by advertisement, not by work. They take it away from us who love our boots. It comes to this. Presently, I have no work. Every year, it gets less. You will see. Now, the continuation of this paragraph. And looking at his lined face, I saw things I had never noticed before. Bitter things and bitter struggle. And what a lot of grey hairs there seemed suddenly in his red beard. So this man had a German look, children. He was very fair. His beard was almost reddish in color. And as this man started talking about the difficulties of his trade, he said that the big firms, they get everything because they can advertise. They get all the customers and money only because of the way they advertise and not by their work. There was no quality in their work. The leather, the shoes, the boots, everything was of very inferior quality. But they get the customers because they can advertise well. And they take away all the business from the small shoemakers. And these small shoemakers really love their work. They love the boots which they make. The situation has come so bad that presently these small shoemakers have no work. Mr. Jessler almost had no work now. Every year his work gets less and less. He loses his customers because he's not advertising. And for the first time, the author saw that there was so much of hardship, so much of pain, so much of struggle in Mr. Jessler's life. The author also felt that Mr. Jessler had grown old suddenly. He could find a lot of grey hairs, especially in his red beard. This man looked very old suddenly. Till now, the author only came, ordered for boots, and went away. But when, for the first time, he started talking about his problems, he even said that he was left with almost no work. It really hurt this man. The author never expected this. Then he saw Mr. Jessler in a very closer way. He could see that this man was very sad, he was struggling, and he had suddenly become very old. He felt that Mr. Jessler was almost a poor man now. Now I move on to the next paragraph. As best I could, I explained the circumstances of those ill-omened boots, but his face and voice made so deep an impression that during the next few minutes I ordered many pairs. They lasted longer than ever, and I was not able to go to him for nearly 2 years. Now, when Mr. Jessler said that the large firms paid more attention for the advertisement and the way he talked, the author felt very sad. He felt that Mr. Jessler was an old man. So what did he do? He tried his level best to talk about those ill-omened boots. Ill-omened boots means those boots which were manufactured by those big firms. But he couldn't calm this man, children. And the way Mr. Jessler talked, it really hurt the author. His face, his voice, the way he brought his problem, all this had a deep impact on the author. He felt so hurt that during the next few minutes, the author ordered many pairs of boots. And you know very well, Mr. Jessler always makes the best boots, isn't it? So these boots lasted longer than ever. Initially, he used to order for 1 or 2 pairs, but this time he ordered many pairs. He wanted Mr. Jessler to have some money, to get some work and have some money. So he himself ordered many pairs, and all the boots which he made was of very good quality, and they lasted longer than ever, which means they lasted too long. And so The author could not go to this man for nearly 2 years because he had so many pair of good shoes to wear. Now, the next paragraph. It was many months before my next visit to his shop. This time it appeared to be his elder brother handling a piece of leather. So nearly after 2 years he came again, children. He had so many boots of very good quality. So it was not required to go and meet Mr. Jessler. So when nearly after 2 years or after many months when he came, he felt as if it was not Mr. Jessler but his elder brother. And that man was handling a piece of leather. So he greeted Mr. Jessler. He thought it was his elder brother. Well, Mr. Jessler, I said, how are you? He came close and peered at me. I'm pretty well, he said slowly, but my elder brother is dead. So when the author went to meet Mr. Jessler, he thought it was his elder brother and he wished him. He wished him and greeted him, and he told him how was he doing, and he asked about his well-being. So Mr. Jessler came very close and he peered at me. Peered at me means to look closely. He tried to see who this man was. And then he said, I'm pretty well, which means I'm pretty well. And very slowly he said, but my elder brother is dead, which means he lost his elder brother. But my elder brother is dead. Then the author realized that he was talking to Mr. Jessler himself and not his elder brother. He looked very old now, children. He felt as if he has grown very old. So now we move on to the next paragraph. And I saw that it was indeed himself, but how aged and worn. And never before had I heard him mention his brother. Much shocked, I murmured, oh, I'm sorry. The word worn means, children, pale, to look very weak, maybe because of some illness. So when the author saw this, Mr. Jessler, he felt as if this man has become suddenly very old and he looked pale and weak. He looked sick. And Mr. Jessler had never mentioned about his elder brother to this author. So the author was shocked to hear that he lost his elder brother. He said, no, children, his elder brother died. So the author said, I'm sorry. He murmured. The meaning of the word murmured is to talk very softly. So in a hurry, he just said softly, oh, I'm sorry. He felt really shocked to hear this news. And maybe because of that, Mr. Jessler was looking very old now. He looked sick, aged, and very weak. Now, the next paragraph. Yes, he answered. He was a good man. He made a good boot. But he is dead. And he touched the top of his head, where the hair had suddenly gone, as thin as it had been on that of his poor brother, to indicate, I suppose, the cause of his death. Do you want any boots? And he held up the leather in his hand. It is a beautiful piece. The word boot means boot. Do you want any boot means do you want any boots? It is a beautiful piece means it is a beautiful piece. So when he mentioned about the death of his elder brother, the author was shocked. But Mr. Jessler, he tried to recover from that shock, children. He told the author that his elder brother was a very good man who made very good boots. But he was dead now. And then he touched the top of his head. When he touched his head, the author saw that this Mr. Jessler had also lost a lot of his hair. He was also looking very old. So then Mr. Jessler asked him, "Do you want any boots?" And then, as if he forgot about his brother, he held up a piece of leather and he said that it was very beautiful. So when he touched the top of his head, the author felt that this Mr. Jessler was also going bald, maybe to show that he lost his elder brother because of old age. People grow old, isn't it? And this man was poor. He was not very interested in money or advertisement. So though he was hardworking, he did not earn enough to take care of his health. So slowly, he was also becoming old. Then he changed the topic. Mr. Jessler changed the topic and asked about the boots. Did he want to buy any boots from him? And he showed the author a beautiful piece of leather, which means that Mr. Jessler was only interested in his work. For him, work was worship, children. Though he was sad that he lost his brother, he had no money, he did not have very good health, he suddenly looked old, but still, when he saw the piece of leather or when he thought about making boots, this Mr. Jessler was very happy. Now we come to the end of the second module, children. Thank you.